laundry day. Sorry, you can see like my naked mattress and pillows and Francis's butt. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Andy. I hope you're doing really well wherever or whenever in the world that you are. Today, I'm doing a very highly requested video by low-key no one other than my sisters. I'm gonna be talking about whether these really popular, super hyped books are worth it. Are they worth the hype, in my opinion? Now, before I do a video like this with some potentially controversial thoughts and opinions, I just want to make sure that I say we are all unique individuals. We bring our own lived experiences and perspectives into every book that we pick up. With this, we're all going to have differences, and that is totally okay. There are going to be books that I love that maybe you hate. There are books that didn't work for me that are maybe some of your favorites, and all of that is okay. That's the beauty of books, is that everyone's got to find the right fit for them, and that's totally fine. I would love to know in the comments below if there's books that I really liked and I think are worth the hype, but you didn't. I'd love to hear why you think the books are not great or what things about them didn't work for you. And vice versa, a book that maybe I didn't like or I didn't find was worth the hype, I would love to hear why for you maybe it was. Can you convince me to give any of these authors or books a second try? Yeah, anyways, all that to say is that if I don't like a book and you do, that is okay. And if I like a book and you don't, that is also okay. We can still be friends. We can still hang out in this little beautiful corner of the interweb. Yeah, so I just wanted to make sure I said that before I talk about these very popular books. So for this, maybe part one, maybe I'll do more in the future, I found a list of like some of social media's most favorite, most popular, most hyped book list. I think the list is from a blog called Stylecaster maybe. So I will leave the link to this little article down below. So if you want to peruse it, you totally can do that. I think for this particular video, I probably won't get too much into the synopses for each book just because they are so popular. And I'm not great at doing synopses. I think you're better off reading the Goodreads summary or like Googling it. All right, enough housekeeping. I feel like I'm procrastinating. Let's get into the books. I'm gonna stamp these books as either, yes, they are worth the hype, not for me, not in my opinion, or oops, I haven't read it. All right, the first book on this list is it's a controversial one, fresh out the gate. It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. Now, this book is adored by thousands. I am not one of them. I think this one didn't really work for me. The primary reason is I absolutely went into this book with the wrong expectations. I thought that this was like a light romance, a rom-com, and it definitely is not that at all. There's some really dark themes and explicit content in this book, including suicide, domestic violence, death, loss, rape, homelessness. Like, there's some really dark themes that come up in this book. So the complete opposite of what I thought I was signing up for. And yes, that is totally on me. If you don't know this, I do like to kind of go into books blind. I feel like this is a book, if you haven't read it, read the synopses, maybe look up the content warnings, read a few reviews, because I don't think this book is for everybody despite its hype. In general, I think there's a lot of problematic things in this book. I don't like that. I think some real major red flags for unhealthy relationships and interpersonal interactions are kind of romanticized or ignored. I feel like that is not great. I don't obviously want to give any spoilers away. I just have really complicated feelings about this, and it leans toward I did not enjoy this. I will say it is quite the page turner. So for like its pacing, it's like, can it keep you on the edge of your seat? For those reasons, I think it is, I mean, it makes sense why people are obsessed with it. It is hard to put down. Plus it has like the dual timeline, which I feel like I and a lot of people really like. But yeah, I think overall, I had a lot of issues with this. I have too many thoughts for maybe this kind of video, so if you want to hear my more in-depth thoughts and feelings with more of like a critical lens, maybe I can do a separate video about it or like a short or something, I don't know. Overall, this book was not for me. I do not think it's worth the hype. I don't really love Colleen Hoover. She's not my favorite author. I feel like I've liked a few of her books, but not as many as I've disliked. So, you know, maybe that's a me thing. Might be just a me problem. Okay, the next book on this list is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Jenkins Reid. I mean, this is an absolute yes. This book is so worth the hype to me. I went in really skeptical about whether or not I was gonna like this book. I do have this weird thing where as soon as a book starts to become really popular, like everyone and their mom is talking about it, sometimes I like dig my feet in the sand, and just because I'm stubborn, I'm like, I'm not gonna read that book. So I was really late to the train with 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo or whatever, and I would even say, as I was reading it, I got to like 60%, and I was like, this is good, but why are people obsessed with it? And then I finished the book, and I was sobbing, and I was like, I get it. I understand. I think Evelyn is such a captivating main character. I love the journey through her life. I like the structure of the story. I was really, really emotionally connected to these characters, their lived experiences. I loved it. I will say, I know that Jenkins Reid is not the author for everyone, and honestly, I feel a little uncomfortable, or like I feel not great that she is a white author writing non-white main characters. She writes a lot of Latina characters, and I just feel weird about that. And so I'm trying to like hold these two ideas in my mind at the same time of like, I love some of her books and I really adore her writing, but you know, she's not perfect, and I don't know. So take it or leave it. In general though, I love this book. I think it's worth the hype. The next one is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. This, if you've seen my anti-TBR tag, I'll link it in like the cards or the description or whatever. This is a book that I don't anticipate ever reading. Some weird, shady, controversial stuff has come up about the author. And yeah, I don't think it's for me. One of my friends read it and didn't love it. And so I just am like, I don't think I'm gonna read it. It's not interesting to me. I think I'm gonna pass. Although I love that the movie, the actress is from Normal People. So if I ever consume this story, it would probably be in movie form. But even that, I've moved on from. Like, I doubt I'll watch it at this point. The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides? I don't know how to say their name. I loved this. I think it is definitely worth the hype. We read this for a book club maybe last year. I forget, but I went into it totally blind. I had no idea what this story was about. I didn't even really know that it was a thriller before I picked it up. And it was a total roller coaster. As someone who doesn't read a lot of thrillers, I was thrilled the whole time. I was on the edge of my seat. I loved that I kept trying to guess what was gonna happen next. I thought it was great. I thought it was so fun. Definitely worth the hype. ACOTAR, lols, by Miss Sarah Janet Maas. I weirdly am surprised to see this book on this list, but I don't know why, because I see it on Book Talk all the time. Man, I'm a sucker for like a fae or like fairy romance, and I feel like Sarah J. Maas is like the queen of this genre. She writes some really addictive shit. Whether or not you think it's high quality or good writing, it is so addictive. I feel like her worlds and her characters, the drama, I love it so much. It's so entertaining. I think if you go into this book with the right expectations, it totally is worth the hype. It is such a fun time. But I think if you go in expecting this really, I don't know, like sophisticated fantasy kind of thing, I think you'll be really disappointed. But I think if you go in just like wanting some fantasy elements, wanting some relationship, and being really open to like whatever the journey takes you on, I think you'll be really pleasantly surprised if you haven't already read this series. I do feel like people describe Sarah J. Maas's books, but ACOTAR in particular, as being like fairy porn. And yes, these books are smutty, but I do feel like there's a lot more to them. I feel like there's a surprising amount of court intrigue and like political machinations and that kind of stuff. And there's like a big baddie and like big war stuff that comes later in the series. There's a great found family component to that series. Yeah, there's a lot to love. So I think it's worth the hype. Okay, Transcendent Kingdom by Gyasi. I'm surprised that Homegoing isn't on this list because in my opinion, Homegoing is better and is more popular, but I guess it's older, so I guess that makes sense. I think, even though I preferred Homegoing, I think Transcendent Kingdom is also worth the hype. I think her writing is beautiful. I read this book a little over a year ago, so I don't remember all of the ins and outs about like what this plot is, but I feel like there's a lot of discussion around religion and science and like how they work together or against each other in the scheme of life. There's also a lot of really thoughtful representation of grief and addiction. Yeah, I mean, it's a really thought-provoking book and I really enjoyed it. I highly recommend it. I think it's definitely worth the hype. But if you had to choose between Transcendent Kingdom and Homegoing, I would start, or maybe you should start with Transcendent Kingdom and then read Homegoing because I think Homegoing is better. Whatever. I love this author's writing. I feel like anything that they put out, I will read. Oh, okay. Funny You Should Ask by Elissa Sussman. I haven't read this one yet, but my sister read it this past summer and thought it was like a good old time. So I think I'll eventually get to it. I don't know. Comment down below if you've read it, what your thoughts are, because I'm feeling a little bit meh. I like the cover, but my sister didn't have like glowing reviews of it. So I don't know. Convince me in the comments. Do I read this book? Yes or no? Stolen by Lucy Christopher. I've never even heard of this book. I don't know if this one's worth the hype. Moving on. Time is a Mother by Ocean Vuong. I don't know how to say their last name. I haven't read this either. I feel like, is this book poetry? I feel like it is. I also feel like this author notoriously writes really sad books. I don't mind if I pick up a book and I'm really emotionally invested and I end up crying at the end, but I don't typically like seek out books where like people's main takeaways, like this book will make you cry. I tend to stay away from those because I think I've mentioned this in the past. I have a very emotionally draining job. And so I don't need sad stuff in my like pleasure recreation space if I can avoid it. So I've never read anything from this author. Yeah, let me know in the comments if you've read this. I know next to nothing about it. I don't even really recognize the cover. All right, the last one is Before the Coffee Gets Cold by, oh man, I don't know how to say their name, so I'm not even gonna try because I don't wanna butcher it that badly, but I've also never heard of this book. Wow. We started this list off with books that I knew right away, and the end, I'm like 0 for 3 at the end here. So, well, I guess those last 3, let me know if you've heard or read any of them and whether or not you think I might like them. I'm always open to adding more books to my TBR, even though it's a gazillion books long at this point. Isn't that the fun thing about reading though, that like there's always more books to read? I love that. Those are apparently some very insanely popular books this day and age, you know, with Book Talk and BookTube and, you know, all the fancy social media stuff. What do you all think? Did these books surprise you if they're on this list? Were there any that were just like, yeah, no, duh, that it makes sense that book is, I mean, for me, like the Colleen Hoover book, the Taylor Jenkins Reid book, those don't surprise me at all that they were on this list. I feel like there's a lot of missing books on this list, so I knew it. I said it at the beginning. I might have to do a part 2. Feel free to drop in the comments like what hype books you might want to be included in that video. Or if you know of another like Goodreads list or something, feel free to drop that link down below and I can use that to kind of guide this wee little discussion. I'm so curious. Please comment down below whether or not you think some or all of these books are worth the hype. Although a lot of these books are very, very popular, like thousands and thousands of people like them, I also feel like some of them people really don't like and really don't vibe with. So I'd be so curious to hear your thoughts. As always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here with me. If you're new, welcome. If you're returning week to week, I appreciate you so much. If you made it to the end, leave one of the face emojis. Yeah, show what mood you're in right now, talking about these very hype books. So anyways, thank you so much for watching. That's all I got. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.